Hi, I'm okay.
Hi,
Um,
everyone. I'm here with Shirley Ratner, and we're here to talk about coaching and therapy and everything in between. So, first thing I want to do is ask Shirley to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Shirley Ratner. I'm a clinical psychologist. I live here in Cleveland, Ohio with my family, and I'm so happy to be here with you today, Ruchi.
Thank you. Thank you, Shirley. So, I would love for you to tell everybody listening here today, from your experience as a psychologist and your work in, the healing modality, and you accessing coaching for yourself, right? So the first thing I want to ask is, where were you emotionally before or when you reached out to me for coaching, which I think you didn't even necessarily know that you were reaching out for coaching, you were simply reaching out. So how would you describe where you were at emotionally at that point?
Yes, so it's actually very interesting and fascinating that we're sitting here talking together as a coach and a clinical psychologist. I had done years and years of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and I myself trained and have a PhD and have been practicing for about 15 years myself. So very much rooted in the world of counseling and therapy and psychology, which has been extremely helpful. And I would say that I'm also somebody who is often seeking meaning. I want to make meaning out of things, and I want to, um, you know, heal in a way where I can then move forward. The areas in my life that I was still struggling in, as much as I understood intellectually what my issues were, and again, counseling and cognitive therapy were very helpful in that. I still seemed in my relationships when I was triggered to still go back to that default, negative behaviors. Psychology tells us that we are the sum of our learned experiences. Yes, that is true. It is not the whole story. We are the sum of our learned experiences. Really, we are the consciousness that is aware of the sum of our learned experiences. And it is this consciousness, this ability to bring ourselves to the moment, to see what we're doing, be observers, and give it meaning, and then be able to move forward. I was not there yet, and Rochi, I've had a, I've heard you speak for many years. You're somebody who's, if I may say, extremely prominent in our community. You are a great thinker. Your gift is to to give things meaning, the right meaning, and that is extremely important. I think that if we could sort of look at the father of that was Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And he was a psychiatrist. So I think that in this day and age, psychology and counseling is often fixed on restructuring, thinking differently, but giving meaning to things is extremely important. So I was struggling in my relationships. I was following you, and at some point, something told me to just reach out to you and to talk to you, and to get some advice about I was seeking, and I wasn't sure what I was seeking. And
Mm,
so I called you up.
that
I
was great.
called you up.
I remember exactly where I was. I was in the car. We were traveling home from New York or something. Um, and you called me and I was like, I don't know. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why Shirley's calling. So, but yeah, that was brave of you, because it's hard to reach out for help. And maybe your training and expertise in therapy made it more possible for you because you are in the helping and healing modality. And maybe perhaps that made it um, easier for you, maybe than some other people to understood when you needed help and to make that brave phone call.
Rochi, I love that you said the word courage. because I think that's really what this is. And I often say this to people who come for therapy. There's still so much stigma in therapy. We'll talk about the coaching part as well, but there's so much stigma around just getting help. Just it's so easy if you break a leg, God forbid, to, say, I gotta go to the doctor and get it fixed. But when the mind, the spirit, the heart is broken, it's so much harder to say, let me go and work on those aspects of us. Um, I agree with you that because I have, you know, been working on my healing for a very long time, I understood the value of getting help
Mm-hmm.
and the courage to get help. But here's the thing. I think here's the even more important thing that I hope people can understand. It's also, the universe sends us the healing that we need if we are open to it. In other words, I wasn't looking for coaching. I was seeking, and the universe sent me coaching with Ruchi. I really truly believe that this is unique, I mean, not all clinical psychologists or therapists are created equal. Not all coaches are created equal. I really do believe that. And there's no one size fits all. There's no one right fit. We have to be open. And if we are open and there is um, something that makes itself available to us, have the courage to give it a shot. If you and I one of the things that was for me, I felt so lucky every Sunday that we met together. And then, I'll go back a little bit to how I got the courage to do it, because it's a big investment. Mind, body, and spirit. It's an investment. And it's an investment, time, discipline, finances. This is an investment. I have a therapist who, a while back, he always used to say, it's your money or your life, your money or your life. And I always loved that, because we
Mm-hmm.
have to really look at our life and what we're putting our resources towards. This for me was priceless, and it is the gift that keeps on giving. And and for me, the fact that you're somebody who coaches people all over the world. For me, that I had you on my couch
Mm-hmm.
every Sunday morning, that I didn't have to do it virtually, that I got to sit with you, was tremendous. And while it's amazing, if people, this work is amazing, no matter where you are, do this. If you're local, it's like, oh my God, it's unbelievable. But this is, if you have the opportunity to engage in this process, I can't say enough about it.
Oh, thank you. So going back to what you said, that in the beginning you were really struggling with your relationships because of the making meaning out of the struggle, right?
Yes,
So what shifted for you then? How is it different now?
right, absolutely. So I I think that the you know the idea of bringing meaning into our life, into things that have happened to us. Things have happened to us in our lives. We can't go back. We can't change them, right? And I remember one of the first things you said to me that for me was actually a life-changing idea in a way. And it may seem so simple to people. And maybe, for me, it was delivered by you, who was somebody who was meant to deliver that message to me, that the difficult people in my life were not the cause of my misery, but rather were the impetus of my growth. You used the word impetus. It's become like my favorite word. And it was a life-changing, and I needed to hear that from someone like you. Again, not all coaches are made equal, not all psychologists are made equal. Um, I think that psychology plus spirituality takes you a long way, and the idea that people come into our lives and they can be impetus for our growth. First of all, to me, it's a spiritual value. It's a value, you know, um, and and it is about cultivating um, a sense of faith that there is a higher consciousness we could live in, a higher consciousness where we could rise above the noise of the sum of our learned experiences, all that we've learned, all the messages that we received as children, as adults, by social media, by society, whether it's in parenting, whether it's and for me, and I remember what actually made me reach out to you is you had posted something about your grandmother,
Yes.
may she rest in peace, who was a Holocaust survivor and who still had lost a child, um, who still had was able to carry joy in her life. And I wanted to capture that. And so I
Mhm.
had reached out to you because you were part of this legacy. And I had listened to you for many years. And so I heard that essence in many of your lectures and speeches and taking topics and taking a simple idea and topic and transforming it into this incredibly elevated part that just touches your soul. I also recently, and this was actually very validating to the work that you and I did. Again, Rochi, I think that, and I will say this throughout our interview today, it's not just about coaching, it's coaching with Rochi. It's a whole other level of getting help and support, a whole other level. And I will say it and keep saying it. Um, I recently heard, and this was after the work that I had done with you, Rochi, which again took, my years of therapy and just like 6 months that brought me to a place that I think 30 years of therapy can be. And again, I think there is place for both. Both are essential, both are helpful. People can benefit from both, depending what they've experienced in life, how severe their traumas may be. And we're all in different places. And again, it's about opening ourselves up, having the courage to open up and to take a chance and to have the courage. Recently, in the last few weeks, I heard an interview with one of the leading psychology researchers right now. Her name is Dr. Lisa Miller. She has recently wrote a book called The Awakened Brain. She does scientific research. She's a leading psychologist that researches spirituality. And she says, and I will paraphrase, um, she says that pretty much they have discovered something that we all sort of know innately, that every one of us is hardwired for spirituality. We're all
Wow.
hardwired for it. And
That
she
means you're
gives,
saying that we innately need it, that we innately
oh,
crave it.
yes, that we
Uh-huh.
innately have it.
That
Not
we
just
innately
need it,
have it.
we
Uh-huh.
innately have it. And and she scientifically goes through showing you how the research is you know proving it scientifically what we know, what we know innately. And it is so unbelievably good and powerful because this kind of research is really also, I'm excited. I'm
Mhm.
excited for the field of psychology, um, and to incorporate spirituality. It is not there yet for most people. In fact, I believe that the world of psychology has moved away from it. And so hopefully in the coming decades, it will, that'll be incorporated. Coaching with Ruchi really brings that to life. So for me, it wasn't one or the other.
Yeah.
I feel like it certainly, being in the world of, like you said, being able to seek and want to heal. I'm very
Mhm.
much, and I've seen the changes in my life, and I couldn't get there yet. And I really truly feel that this work with you um, was extremely powerful in tapping into the mind, the body, and the spirit all
Mhm.
together. And that it's truly a mind, body, spirit, not just a mind and a body. Psychology is very much dealing with mind and body. coaching with Ruchi is mind, body, and spirit. Really took me, wow, just wow.
Well,
Again, gift that keeps on giving. And I'm super incredibly grateful.
wow, thank you. That was so interesting.
Hmm.
Um, and from my perspective as a coach, I found it to be so, I found our work together to be so gratifying because, my kids have a term and we didn't have this term when I was growing up, that somebody is very worked on. I don't know if you've heard that expression. So you are such a worked on person. Like when we first started talking, and I could see right away that you had done the work, that you are doing the work, and that so therefore coaching didn't have to start from zero, right? We started from the super evolved and advanced point along the way, and therefore we could go so much deeper in coaching because your heart is open, your mind is open, you are schooled in the business, not the business, but you're schooled in the discipline of self-work and self-growth. And so I agree. It's such a synergy when good coaching and good therapy go together. So I'm curious now, that we've done this and this shift, that you were, excuse me,
Bless you.
excuse me, allergy season in Cleveland.
Absolutely.
The how you had said the impetus, this idea of understanding this deep, meaningful concept that the difficult people in your life are your impetus for growth, and how thinking about that. And I know from my own journey with my own relationships, how knowing that was the beginning of changing everything for me. So I'm curious for you, what did that make possible?
Mm, beautiful. I love that. And I'm going to answer that. I also want to just go back for a minute and highlight a word you used, which very much came up for me this morning. And the word is discipline. And I have to say that as a psychologist who is on a journey of healing and and coaching and spirituality, the discipline is a critical component, and that everybody who's listening to this really needs to recognize that that is the key to success in everything in life. And I think everybody innately knows that if you want to rise above your insecurities and all the learned experiences and your default ways, whether it's in eating and overthinking and or raging or addictions, that it is about discipline. And coaching um, can give you, it's a commitment to say to saying I am going to make a commitment and investment in myself, and I'm going to, as a process of making that commitment, I'm going to engage in a form of discipline, meeting weekly, doing homework assignment, or really, it's not even so much homework assignment. I mean, the way you structure it, guys, just do this and you'll find out how wonderful it is, because there is a structure to it, and it teaches you, and it gives you that discipline, which to me is such a critical component of healing and growing and coming to have um, improved relationships and joy in our life. And so this is a good segue to the idea of turning my perspective on my relationship from being a victim,
Yeah.
these people are behaving in ways that are hurting me, to these are people that are an impetus for my growth. And you also gave me another very, very important concept that I use with my patients and clients, which is which is what do difficult people do for us? They trigger us. And I remember that you said triggers show us where our work is. I believe that that came from the work that you and I did another life-changing idea that is connected to impetus, right? Meaning that if somebody behaves a certain way and I'm triggered, instead of judging them
Mhm.
and getting hurt by them, which of course we do as humans, let me look inward and say, why is this triggering me? And what is my opportunity for me to let go of something inside of me that I'm still carrying, right? So, in other words, they behave a certain way, it triggers me. Now, if I can deal with that trigger, if I can learn about myself, why does that even bother me? And how can I let go, not forgive the person? See, people confuse forgiveness with letting go of our own pain and our own, pain and trauma that we've carried over the years, right? So, I think that people think, oh, I have to give this person for behaving badly. No, let go of the reason you think you need to forgive them in the
Oh,
first
wow.
place,
Wow. Yeah.
right?
That's so
Right?
powerful.
If what you say to me, I don't allow it to hurt me, there's nothing I have to forgive you. You're you. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to like what you're doing, you know?
Right.
I I I can set boundaries with you, and that was another thing that we talked about. And I think boundaries, and we talked a little bit, we went very, we worked on some values and of the and I've heard you talk about it in some of your um, parenting workshops and such on setting healthy boundaries, right?
Mhm.
And what does that even look like and mean? To me, that's connected. What are boundaries for each person? There's no one size fits all. And spirituality comes in when we're able to say, what are good boundaries for me? And what are my values? And those are things that are so unique and wonderful and were given to me by coaching with you.
That's incredible. So I think if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that the spiritual idea that the person that you believe is hurting you is actually there to nudge you along on your spiritual path
100%.
right, to actually make growth possible. So that spiritual idea allowed you to move into, or I should say, allowed you to move from a position of victimhood to a position of empowerment.
100%. And I would say that what you just said was really a thread that went through all the work that we did.
Yeah.
I mean, every session that you and I had, that was the theme that went through. It really is. And another thing that was actually really, really cool is when we started, we did 6 months, and we actually ended right as Passover was starting. And for those of you who are aware or not, the holiday of Passover, one of the overarching themes is going from slavery to liberation. And so I think it's a great metaphor for this work,
Mm.
because slavery is as long as someone else's behavior, you allow that to control how you feel, you are a slave. And and when you can engage or experience somebody's behavior and really look at them as an impetus, what do I need to change in myself? You've transformed yourself from somebody who's a slave to their relationships with other people to somebody who's liberated, because they really, you really, you own your own. You say, wait a second, I am in charge of me. So
Yeah.
a truly liberated person is somebody who really has the tools and has the belief, because it's not just tools, we use the tools, but it has to be a shift in mindset. Has to be a shift in mindset that i am I'm not going to be a slave to somebody else's way of being. I'm going to really own my stuff, own my own reactions, my own feelings. And when I do that, when I take accountability for myself, then I can go from reaction to response. I can really say, I'm taking control of myself regardless of how somebody out there is behaving. That's true liberation. And
Yeah.
so it really was what liberated me. This work
Wow.
truly liberated me, mind, body, and spirit. And it was
Wow.
work. It took work. It took discipline and work and time. And there were many sessions where I cried. where I released, where I opened up to being extremely vulnerable. And it is in that openness and vulnerability, as Brene Brown talks about, and you quoted her in some, at one point in our sessions, that's the healing begins with opening up, with taking down that wall. And I don't know anyone else who would be, you can open your wall with with you. You're somebody who just created an unbelievably safe space, and we need that. We need a safe space, and we need to give ourselves that.
Yeah, thank you. It's so interesting because a lot of times when people reach out to me, in the very beginning, when they're like, I don't know, I need help, I'm stuck, like a mom recently just reached out to me, a Jewish mom, and her kid is dating a non-Jew, and she's very distressed by that. And she's like, how can I not, tell him things and be disapproving and be upset and be triggered? And it's like in the very beginning, people don't forget about the fact that they don't know what the possibilities are. They don't even know that there are other possibilities.
Mhm, mhm,
That when they're feeling triggered and victimized by other people's choices, they think, well, of course I feel this way. Of course, this is my emotional reality. Wouldn't anybody feel this way if they were so triggered, right? And the answer is yes, of course, it's so normal. And of course, people need validation that is very, very painful. But just even to open somebody's mind to the idea that there are options, people don't know that there are options. That's huge. And then to consider the options, then to be open to learning the option, then to be open to implementing the options. That's the journey.
Absolutely, 100%. And when you said this, it's a great example that you just gave of one of the clients that reached out to you, and it brought up a few things for me that were helpful in my work with you. Um, Number one is when you say that, you're right, people get stuck in their emotion because of one set of belief system, which is really a sum of your learned experience. If you grew up being told that this way is not the right way, you're going to fight for that. And what happens is when you don't feel you have choices, you want to control, 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 control. And we know, and you know, as we get older and older, we realize how much that doesn't work. The more we try to control someone else, the more we fail miserably. And I've heard you talk about that a lot in some of your, presentations to people. And working with you really, really is a way to tap into that and to open up to the options. For me, and I keep coming back to the uniqueness of coaching with Ruchi,
Mhm.
which is to me priceless, is that I think that again your role as a spiritual leader for me was very powerful because I grew up with um you know a certain amount of religious dogma, and which includes very strong opinions and ways of being,
Mm.
which is very unfortunate
Like
because
an
really.
authoritarian kind of vibe,
Say that again, sorry.
like authoritarian.
Very, yes, exactly. And it is unfortunate that sometimes, religious institutions can present themselves, or certain people, not even the institutions, but sometimes, you could grow up in an environment that has good intentions and
Mm.
yet is very authoritarian and judgmental in nature. And so you grow up with very strong ideas that, you know, sometimes they can serve you and sometimes they can keep you stuck. And so, with regard to your client, and even with some of the ways that I had experienced my own being, how I was parented and how I parented my children, there was some of these themes
Mm.
of, but it has to be this way, or
Right.
I'm justified in feeling this way.
Right, right. Like there would be no
Yes,
option. Clearly, there would
right.
be no option. Like
Yeah,
not only that, like, oh, I'm stuck, I have to feel this way, but like it would be incorrect of me to feel any other way.
yes, yes, exactly. And to have someone like you bring that the perspective of options, I think was what I needed. It
Mm,
was really extremely important.
mhm,
And I yeah, just invaluable,
mhm.
invaluable. Everybody needs to do this.
So, Shirley,
Everybody
when
should
you
give
say
themselves the gift. It's a
yes,
gift.
I
It's a
mean,
gift.
actually, so interesting. I have had several clients say to me, I'm giving this to myself as a birthday gift. I'm giving this to
Love that.
myself as a Mother's Day gift.
Yes.
Yeah, really
Yes.
powerful.
Yes. Oh my gosh. 100%. Let me tell you, if you do this, will infuse it shifts you and it changes you and it liberates you. And what it then does, it allows you to show up for everything in your life with more clarity, with more joy, with more peace. And when you change, your relationships change. The people around you change. Here's the thing. We have this idea that, when we're unhappy with our relationships, if just this person changes or
Right.
says things this way or that way, I will be better, everything will be better. And I even believe that even in the world of psychology, sometimes, there's a lot of, okay, well, if you didn't like the way this person talked to you, how about you tell them how you feel and then you tell them what you need from them and all of those things. And that works to a point. And there's the idea, and again, coaching with Ruchi was really so important and helpful in saying, and this is truly a gift you give yourself, that I'm going to look at me, that I'm going to clean things up in here. I'm going to shift things in here, and I'm going to show up differently. When I show up differently, my relationships change.
Yeah.
But, I think it was Einstein who said the definition of insanity is wanting, doing the same thing over and over again and
Mm,
expecting that things are going to change.
yeah.
And so this work is about, if I want to see change, I have to be the change. And I know I didn't make that up, but it's cliche, but it's really truly true. Please give yourself, I really, to me it was, it was at first I'm like it was a lot. I was like, do I really want to do this? I wasn't necessarily seeking it. But like I said, I'm a seeker. And so the universe opened this opportunity to me. And it took courage. It took courage. And I'm also grateful that, I had support. I had, my husband was supportive of it. And I'm very grateful for that. Um, and don't wait though for others to, again, um, give that gift to yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. And my last question for you is, in what way did coaching impact your professional life in a
Oh,
positive sense?
tremendous. Wow. Yeah, that's an excellent, excellent question. Wow. I mean, completely, completely like transformed the way that I practice. Um, psychology. I mean, I always sort of brought so, meaning making and depth and commitment to working on yourself. Um, the coaching and coaching with you empowered me to know that I have I have control over myself. And so I bring that idea to people in a very gentle way. Obviously, as a psychologist, I do a lot of deep trauma work with people as well. And I think that that is important. That's why I say coaching and counseling are not mutually exclusive. They can go hand in hand for people, depending on what people have been through. Clinical psychology is a wonderful place to land. to identify the the wounded inner child. I identify her or him, and really, have that space to go deep into that. Although, coaching can touch on it, psychology. I mean, again, I think there's a lot of overlap. So and then really just empowering people and helping people tap into their own their own inner power to show up, to
Mhm.
let go, to show up differently, to identify what is it about what's happened in this relationship for you that's hitting you, and how can we heal some of those areas. And obviously, as a psychologist, and a coach, you work with people from all backgrounds,
Mhm.
and the theme is the same. you know it's about going inward, mind, body, and spirit, and really looking at yourself and having the courage to look at yourself in a really safe space. And you just provide that. And again, it's also with all your I'll say one more thing. There is value in working with someone who themselves was not born yesterday, was not, it is valuable. And I feel that way too as a psychologist at this point in my life. I am a mother. I am a, I'm a wife. I'm a, and again, it's not, you don't have, you bring your own richness, and it's not what you've been through. It's how you have navigated
Yeah.
and come out of it. There's a quote that I love. I've heard that, it's not the mistake, it's the recovery.
Mm.
I think it's the recovery. And that's a theme that came up for us a lot. So yes, 100%. It has elevated, the work has helped me to elevate every single area of my life.
Yeah.
Professional, personal.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Well, it was a real honor to work with you professionally, Shirley. We started out as friends, and then we, entered into a professional relationship, and now we're friends plus, and I love that. And thank you for sharing your experience so openly and honestly so that others can help understand themselves better and perhaps likewise access help, whether it's with me or with someone else, but to be open to the journey, though it is scary in the beginning. And that how gratifying and life altering it is to do the work and to know that there's something unbelievable waiting for you on the other side that you didn't even know was possible.
Amen. 100%. Thank you. I likewise, I feel the same. And I know we've referred people to each other. And again, I really do believe that it's a continuing, and really, if you're able to do both, one or both, it's tremendous.
Yeah,
Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. We're so busy investing in others, even if whether it's emotional, whatever it is, so much in others. And if we just invest in ourselves, we get to take that energy back,
yeah.
and then it opens up to doing great things in the world. Rochi, no words.
Thank you, Shirley. It was great talking with
Thank
you today.
you. All right.